Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast, coming to you from the Cargo District Recording Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina, where we discuss the most fascinating topics of life. I'm Tyler Yaw with my co-host, Chris Kellum, and each week we interview a special guest to learn how they acquired their wisdom over a glass of whiskey. So, sit back, pour yourself a glass, and enjoy Whiskey and Wisdom. Welcome back to the Whiskey Wisdom Podcast, everybody. This is your co-host, Tyler Yaw, and today I am with
Chris Kellum.
And our special guest today is
Nathan Faulk.
And before we get too far into the episode, Chris, what are we sipping on today?
Because it's, March, and we got to drink some Irish stuff for it. We brought back out the Jameson 18 year that we had a few weeks ago.
With Justin Humphreys. Shout out to the Humphreys episode with Humphreys Law for the bottle that he allowed us to keep.
Yes.
Greatly appreciate that.
I don't know if you did it on purpose, but
right.
I'm going to keep drinking it. This one's supposed to be a little bit smooth, mellow, some toffee, wood and leather, and just like a classic finish of spice and wood. But yeah, check it out. Taste it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Still tastes just as good as the first time.
I like it.
Yeah.
Works.
Smooth, but
Nice,
not too.
nice flavor.
Perfect. So, tell us a little about yourself, Nate.
So, yes, Nathan Faulk. I own and operate Flight 22 Basketball, 24 years running. I've been a head basketball coach at different places around the state. High school, first head job was at South Columbus High School as a head varsity basketball coach. Then I went on to Southview High School in Fayetteville.
Mm-hmm.
And then here recently at Laney High School for 5 years. Wayne Country Day out in Goldsboro. And now I just run Flight 22, coach our post-grad program, and do the AAU sector of that. So, yeah, that's what I've done for the last 24 years. Basketball's been a big portion of my life.
Oh, wow.
Always life, man. Always life.
Yes.
Literally.
So, you've been coaching for years. What got you into basketball? Has it just been forever, or is it something that kind of triggered it?
Yeah, well, I got good advice when I was young. It was, figure out what you love in life and what that is, and then figure out how to get paid for it.
Right.
So playing only took me so far, but that you still have that love and passion for it. So then you figure out, like, well, how can I make revenue on this? How can I make a living off of this? So obviously the natural transgression to that was teaching and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I started teaching health and PE, went to school, graduated from UNC Wilmington, got into coaching. My first, right out of college at UNCW, was the JV coach at Laney High School. So I actually had 2 stints at Laney High School as a JV coach and then back as the varsity coach, full circle. But once that happened, you want to climb that ladder. And obviously I was thinking about college coaching. I was thinking about continuing going up that ladder. So we started an AAU program, and the rest is history. And we started off with one team at that time when I was 23 years old, and had a guy by the name of Cedric Simmons on that team from Charlotte who ended up being a lottery pick in 2006. And
wow.
You don't coach many lottery picks in your career, or NBA players for that matter. And so naturally with that happening and being in basketball, it worked. It worked with, I was a teacher during the day. I was on the weekends traveling with the AAU team, having camps, having clinics, and just finding a way to make a living, basically doing basketball and doing what I love, and at the same time helping kids. So it connected all the dots.
Nice.
That's great. So what made you kind of make the transition from what I would think of like the typical like high school, middle school type of thing to Flight 22?
Shout out to all the high school coaches that are still coaching. I did it for 18 years. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very hard right now. So nothing, it was just a different decision making for me and a different path that I wanted to. So Flight 22 is my baby, and it's synonymous with me. I'm synonymous with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it just made sense. If I will put all that time and effort into something, let's make sure that it's, it's my brand, it's my company, it's my baby. Let's just put it all into that. Let's grow it. Let's develop it. Let's try to do more good, while at the same time getting just pay for your service and for what you're worth, your self-worth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And man, it's just tough if you ask me right now to do it. The hours are long, the expectations are ridiculous, the pressure is insane, and the pay is low. So if you think that sounds great,
Have at it.
sign up for it. So, that's where it is, at that level. But with what we're able to do, I'm able to, first of all, kind of pick and choose who I want. Number one,
Right.
that's huge. Make my own schedule. I'm my own boss. So all of that plays into it. You're getting young men that want it. So therefore, if they want it, they're ready to and willing to do what it takes to make it. Be it invest financially, be it invest with the hard work and time, all of it together.
Yeah.
Where high school, sometimes that's just not the case, So for me, it was just a little different path and one that just kind of fit where I was in my life at that time better. And I think it's doing more good also, with what we're doing at this point. We're taking kids right now so in the recruiting trail, it's ridiculously hard for a high school kid right now with the way it's set up by the NCAA. They're recruiting transfer kids. So if you're a high school kid coming out, it was already hard to begin with. Super, super hard now. So those kids need to slow down time. So my postgraduate program allows that to happen. They basically get to redo their senior year again, if that makes sense, without their eligibility starting. So you're able to put them in a platform on a stage that is highly visible while they develop physically and skillfully. And then that just kind of slows down the process a little bit. And even then, it's still hard, but at least gives them a much better chance. I can tell you stories in the last 3 years that we've had I've done AAU for 20-plus years, but the postgrad is new. It's 3 years old. But I can tell you stories in the last 3 years of kids that have made it because of the postgraduate situation. So that's so fulfilling.
Yeah.
So for people and some of our listeners that don't know, what is Flight 22?
So Flight 22 basketball, like I said, it started when I was 24 years old. It was an AAU program, so travel basketball, travel baseball. That's basically what it was, or is. And that just kind of evolved itself into, okay, now we're going to host camps. Okay, now we're going to host events. We have the Fred Lynch Invitational here every summer that we have. And bring in high school teams and colleges in for a 3-day event at Laney High School in honor of Fred Lynch, who was the Laney basketball coach before me, who actually coached Michael Jordan. And so now we've also developed the postgraduate sector of our program, which deals with what I just said, the guys that need that extra year, that postgraduate year between high school and college. So we get kids in college, we get them scholarships, over 150 to date. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
2 guys in the NBA. We got Ricky Council in the NBA right now, who's crushing it on a 2-way contract with the Sixers right now.
Jeez, that's awesome.
I was at his draft party back in June. See stories like that and see that it just does the heart good, man.
For sure.
It's pretty cool.
Just thinking about like basketball and helping those kids post grad. You said like just a conference of post-grad is new for the past 3 years, or it's just something you guys just started?
Something we started. Post-grad is nothing new. Okay. It's just we started it 3 years ago, and it was me coming out of COVID, realizing that it's the portal mixed in with the COVID year just changed the landscape of basketball. And in my mind, my wheels started turning, like, how can we be on the cutting edge and a pioneer of jumping on this to help kids? And it was to do postgraduate, which has been around, but to do it here and do it in a little different way, because I don't have housing. We don't have that these kids have to, they come to me every weekend. We meet every weekend here in Wilmington when we're practicing, or we meet at the site of the game. So it's really, it's really a unique situation, because we don't have the housing and the dorms and that kind of stuff, which you think about in post-grad when you think about the old school traditional postgraduates like Fork Union, Hargrave, IMG.
Yep.
Those are some of the ones that probably come out when you think about it in your mind. With the same thing, we've beaten Fork Union, we've beat Massanutten.
Wow.
We've beat these teams in the last 3 years that are traditional powerhouses. But we do it a little different because we don't have the housing, and which is also cool because we're able to keep the costs down and give them an avenue that's more cost effective for them.
I feel like it also allows the kids, I'm going to say for lack of a better word, to put in more work too. Because if you see them,
Yeah.
If you only see them like a couple days a week, like you got to see like what work are you putting in outside of us.
That's huge, and that's what I tell the parents straight up. Like, I'm not be able to, we're not gonna be able to monitor you daily. That's where you're gonna have to. And in today's world, like today's serious basketball players, they all have trainers now.
Yeah.
They're invested in their trainer. So what it allows is them to have the most training they probably have ever had since they have that free year to really dive into their training. So as long as they're working at home and come back to me and we do the team concept with me, it works. And for the most part, they do. So there are some situations where I feel like, especially in the grind of the year, they may slack off. You can see it.
Yeah.
But that's when I remind them, hey, this is your future here, man. Let's get the ball going here.
I think that's important. Something you touched on too is that your head coach probably shouldn't be the only coach that you have when it comes to basketball, right? Like having that like one-on-one training with someone to like help you develop the actual skills for you, and then having that head coach to kind of put all of those different pieces together, right?
Yeah, most kids have a camp of people now.
Right.
They have their parents obviously who's in their camp. They have their trainer who's in their camp. They have their high school coach or former high school coach in their camp. They may have their grassroots coach, AAU coach in their camp, and they may have the post-grad coach. Like whoever, whatever level they're at, they have a camp of people that are usually supporting them and helping them making decisions and advocating for them. So it's good. I mean, it's just a lot of people you got to deal with when it comes decision time when they're going off to a college to make decisions to run it by everybody, or any kind of major changes or decisions. But it's good to have that support.
Yeah.
That's neat.
I think it's interesting too to get the kids used to it, because if they're prepping to go into professional basketball, they're going to have a camp that's typically going to be a lot bigger. And
that camp just grows.
Yes. And like, I know some people who start out and they're like, oh, I don't have to worry about it. I just got my parents and like 2 coaches who are backing me. And then you get famous and you're like, well, you got all these other people who appear out of nowhere, and you're going to need an agent.
The higher the level, the increased camp gets.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have a hand in the pie there, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Absolutely.
The sport that I'm most like familiar with is mixed martial arts, and like specifically UFC, Bellator, and stuff. So it's always funny. People are like, oh, this whoever signed a whatever few $100,000 contract, few $1 million contract, and it's like after you pay everyone underneath there that's coaching you and giving you the nutrition and the boxing and the jiu-jitsu and the whatever the case may be, like that starts going down. Like it's not as big of a number as you expect. Even when you're making those large contracts too, like there's still a lot of people and they're all necessary. It's not like people are just, I'm sure there's people out there just putting their hand out, but you need a lot of those people to be at that level.
Absolutely. I mean, basketball, especially right now, I mean, it's a business. It's a huge business.
Yeah.
NIL.
Oh yeah.
It's a major business. You have kids getting paid so much money. It's crazy. What's
interesting too, now that you touched on NIL, is so I'm UNCW alumni, and so I'm part of the alumni. Awesome. Yes. And so I'm part of the alumni association and all that stuff. And they even reached out and was like, oh, hey, you have a business. If you're interested in sponsoring a player. So like you even have the colleges reaching out, trying to bring in money with this now too. And I was like, oh, wow, if UNCW is doing this, imagine what Carolina's doing.
Well, it's funny. We had a discussion about this last night. You have players that are staying in college longer because they're making more money in college than they would if they went out early into the pros.
Yeah.
They're getting way more money than they get paid in the second round, drafted in NBA. Like R.J. Davis may come back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
I mean, he's killing it, so he may be a first-round draft pick. I don't know exactly if he is great, but, I mean, he's making good, so he may very well come back. So that's good for college basketball.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I miss is like those 4-year athletes, 3-year athletes instead of – I liked one and done, like you were getting great players on great teams, but seeing those people stay a little bit longer.
So that's one benefit is they're staying in college longer, they're getting paid more.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The other side of that is just think about what we just said.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Seriously?
Right.
And so, like, if you're UNC Wilmington or you're any college, like, not only now are you funding for your program to charter flights and bus and have gear, now you're raising money to keep your players.
Mm-hmm.
And you're always being outbidded somewhere else possibly.
Right.
So you have to embrace it as a coach and just say, okay, such and such had a great year. He's going to get paid somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and start looking for the next guy.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, Wilmington went into Kentucky and Rupp Arena and won this year.
I know, yeah.
That's something. I don't know if that happens in years past, with guys that were just there for 4 years in the culture. I don't, that's all cool, but I don't know if that happens. Maybe.
Yeah.
But I know it happened this year.
Right.
And shout out to UNC Wilmington and coach. Man, that was a great win. And, could be the first of many also with the way things are going. Like you see, there's a lot of parity, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Wilmington can go into Rupp and win. Happen.
Mm-hmm.
So for that aspect, it's interesting. Like this bracket that's going to come out in 2 weeks, I don't think anybody can, fill out a correct bracket.
No.
And then on top of that, whoever wins, if they all played it again 2 weeks later, I don't know if the same team would win again. Like,
Right.
That's the coolness of it, Like there's really just no telling, because when you start looking at I think your 1 and 16 seeds are still, but like even the second weekend, when you start getting into 8-9 play, 3-14 play, I think it is, like, right, like,
Yeah.
man, I mean, 14 seed can beat a 3 seed easily. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so
Then
that's
up
what
until
makes it cool.
Yeah, then up until just a couple years ago, there was never a 16 seed that beat a 1 seed until it was a UVA, right, that lost?
You had Virginia lose
Yep.
Yeah.
to UMBC
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
to Coach Odom,
Yeah.
who's a good friend of mine who's now at VCU.
Oh, no way, I didn't know that. Okay.
Ryan Odom.
Oh, wow, very cool.
His dad was Dave Odom, who just beat
Yep.
Wake Forest,
Yeah.
Coach Tim Duncan. So
Probably
it's
a really
good
small
times.
world in the basketball.
Man, we all know each other.
Yeah. That's
we,
neat.
we all know each other. And like I said, I've done it for so long. I know about every coach. I don't watch it as a fan. I'll be quick. People ask, who are you a fan of? And I'm not really a fan. I just watch it a little differently. I know coaches, so I would say maybe I'm a fan of the coach, or I got a good relationship with the coach, and that may change from year to year depending where he goes. you know?
Yeah.
So just watch it a little different. I mean, deep down, I'm a Carolina guy just because I was born and raised at Tar Heel. So when we played Carolina the last two years in the Smith Center and beat them last year, and
that's cool.
did not do it this year. But like being in the Smith Center and coaching in the Smith Center, like if you'd have told me that when I was 8 years old, man, I'd be like, nah, you tripping.
Yeah.
But for that to happen, and then have the company that you started, on the scoreboard up there beside UNC.
Right.
Little things like that it's just craziness, which goes back to probably why another reason why I stepped away from just high school is just because as good as it is to lead a program, it's nothing quite like the entity you started.
Right.
Oh, for sure.
Being on the scoreboard up there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Especially seeing that on the scoreboard at the Smith Center, walking up and down those sidelines.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was unreal the first
like you
time.
guys, if you were going to go do a podcast for somebody else and they pay you well, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it would nothing be like this podcast right up there with Joe Rogan or whatever. You
Right,
know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like, wow, y'all did it,
Yeah.
That's a different kind of specialness, if it makes sense.
Yeah, completely. So how was it the first time that you stepped foot in the Smith Center with your name up there on the board?
Ooh, that was last year, man. It was fun.
Oh,
Jackie
really? Okay.
Manuel was he's a good friend of mine. He was the head coach of the JV team at that time. It was Sean May this year. But, man, Carolina does things in the right way, man. Like their JV team, which they've had around forever, which a lot of people don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Which is interesting because since Dean Smith days, he rotated his coaches to coach the JV team to give them head coaching experience.
Uh-huh.
So Roy Williams coached
Smart.
the JV team back in the day when Dean Smith was there and Roy was an assistant. Hubert Davis coached the JV team when Roy was there, and when Hubert got the job, that was the JV team suddenly became forefront because people were like, Hubert's never been a head coach. And they're like, no, he coached the JV team here for the last few years. He has. So they rotated last year. Like I said, Jackie Manuel did it, and this year Sean May is doing it, and I think maybe Marcus Page gets it next year. But it's super cool the way they
That's neat.
do it and allow a team to come in and play, and they treat you like first class. I mean, it's just the kids have a great experience, with that. And Roy's been to both games that we've played in,
wow.
sitting right there taking notes. Like
That's neat.
pretty cool to have a Hall of Fame up there taking notes and watching. I'm assuming he takes those notes back to the coach, whoever's coaching the team. So that's pretty cool.
Kind of to what you were saying too, that's how I kind of watch all sports. Is like I'm not really like a team like pulling for the team. Most likely not. I'm probably pulling for Carolina, but like I never thought in a million years I'd be pulling for NC State. But I love Keats. Mm-hmm. I think Coach Keats is awesome. So like anytime I see NC State playing now, I kind of pull for them a little bit.
Same
more
kind of thing with me. Like you hang out with coaches. You've seen them grow.
Mm-hmm.
You've sent players to them. They've done them right. Like you just develop this relationship. So you become a fan of the relationship as opposed to the team. But like I said, I'm not going to ever cheer against Carolina just because day one, Dean Smith with me was like who I really wanted to be. Once I realized back to the original question of why you wanted to get into it, and it was Dean Smith was a big part of that, like seeing his culture and family that he created. And then after coaching and, talking and developing a relationship with guys who played for Dean, Coach Smith, you kind of got to see, okay, what I saw as a young kid was really what I thought I saw.
Right.
A familyness, a togetherness that was pretty cool.
That's neat.
Do you know when he passed away, he sent a check to every one of his former players?
Oh.
No way.
I want to say it was for $300, $200 or $300. Don't hold me to that, but it was a check for $200 to $300, and he was like, take your wife out to eat.
Oh, wow.
He had kept money. Like, that gives me goosebumps. Like, he had kept money set
Imagine
aside
how
for
many
every one of
kids
his players. And I've talked to some of the players that received checks. Obviously, I'm good friends with Dante Calabria, who played at Carolina, and Pat Sullivan, who's on staff now at Carolina now. And they all received those checks. Buzz Peterson. They all received. Some chose to frame it, never cash it.
Oh, wow.
And some actually chose to do what he said, which was take their wife or whatever out to eat and enjoy themselves.
Oh,
That's
wow.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's very neat. That's insane. Imagine how many hundreds or thousands of people. Because
if you
long
think
tenure,
about it,
right?
if you think about it, he was there 30 some years,
Yeah.
like 12 players, about 350, 400
Yeah.
players.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of lives to touch.
Yeah.
In general.
I mean, that gesture was,
Right.
that's who he was, though. So.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, talking about Dean Smith and the way the game was played back then versus what it is now, how has that affected you as like a coach, trying to do that crazy transition from post up
It's
to?
funny, I've talked about this recently. This is probably Friday we talked about this. Like, it was yesterday. As a coach, you have to adapt to these kids today.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're out. Like, look at Bill Belichick, guys. He's not coaching next year. I kind of thought he was going to land a job here late. He didn't.
Yeah.
And, there's this major shift going on. Look who the Panthers hired. I'm a huge Panther fan. They went young. Like, it's this youthfulness, relatability to players that you got to have. And so going back into how things have changed, that's one way is you have to be able to, relate to the kids today. Relatability is huge. Connection, relationships. Like, you can still coach them hard, but you better have a relationship with them. Yeah, so that's totally different than how it was. It was much early on. I'm the coach. Is how it's going to be. Not discussing it, whatever. Now you better discuss and just have dialogue and have connection and have some youth. And even if you're older, at least be youthful.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got to be. I'm 46. I can't pretend I'm 25, but I can continue to be youthful. That makes sense. And I think that's why you're seeing, like in basketball, there's a major culture shift going on with the coaches retiring and getting out and this new age youth movement happening. So I think you have to be relatable, adaptable, flexible. Got to communicate, got to be youthful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how things have changed.
Do you follow the UNCW basketball pretty close?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Here's I don't know if it's a controversial question or not, but so they had a incredible start to the season.
Yep.
Really good. And then the last few games, other than Hofstra, they did pretty decent on that game. But the last few games there, what do you think the breakdown was for UNCW? Just because I think most of our listeners have heard of UNCW and kind of following a little bit.
Yeah, UNCW, I mean, Coach does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
I go to a lot of games, most of the games, and follow along as much as I can. You don't know as a coach. You don't know what's in, what causes that. I know the season's long. The duration is super, super long, and it's really hard, to stay at a high level. I go with green, ripe, and rotten, and that's how I want to approach my season.
Mm-hmm.
So green is you're developing, right? You're getting there. You want to stay in that phase as long as you can before you get to ripe. You want ripe to happen toward the end of the year, like now.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's happening now, look at Notre Dame. They had two big wins right now.
Yeah.
They're 12 and 18 or whatever. But are they ripening at the right time? There's something to be said for that.
Mm-hmm.
Or you look at a team that started off really good. Are they starting to get rotten?
Yeah.
And that's what I always say to my teams. And for 30 games, 35 games is a long season.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And you, as a coach, you have to balance, and you learn as you go. Like right now, I look at my younger days, man, I practice way too much. Like if we lost on Friday, I was in there on Saturday morning. Why? Just to make myself feel better.
Right.
Like nobody wanted to be in there. All I was doing was hurting myself. So one thing I started doing was like if we won on Tuesday night, we'd have no practice on Wednesday. Free day Wednesday. We won on Friday or lost on Friday. I certainly weren't practicing on Saturday now, but I did then. Over practicing, overusing legs, whatever the case may be, going back to the camps, maybe too much in the ear of the kids in their camps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's happy now. Not everything's hunky-dory and rainbows and sunshine now. Not with everybody,
Of
right?
course.
So as a coach, you're balancing all of that. So I don't know. It may just be a hiccup, just whatever. The win your state's huge. The going into to basically what matters is 3 days of basketball in the NCAA tournament, right? Because you're not getting an at-large bid.
Yep.
And they got a double bye, right? They finished fourth, I think. So that's all good. At the end of the day, like let's not panic.
I was going to say, it's a good spot to be.
But you do want to play your best basketball. So green, right, rotten, that's just how I look at things. And I don't think you can go back. Once you go rotten, I don't think you can go back.
You can't start over.
You can go back to green.
No,
it's
not
done.
until next year.
And it's the same thing with our life if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facets of your life. You have people that are really in their prime, they're popping. You have people that are still learning and developing. You have people that are just done. They've checked out.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the people who have checked out can go back to.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So it's very similar. And I got that from a coach a long time ago about the breaking down of your season. And, of course, me and my analytical self, hey, I can, look at that for life,
Right.
For sure.
But, so I don't really know. Like I'm not going to speculate, but I just know a season's long and what happens in that season and stuff is very hard. But they need to mash the panic button there. I think they're going to be just fine.
Right,
They're going to be a force to reckon with in 3 days. And I think they got a sure shot of making the tournament, as good as Charleston.
Definitely, yeah.
Hofstra, so.
Yeah, they beat Charleston twice already. So, I mean, it's still there.
That's scary, though, as a coach.
Yeah?
That scares me. That scares me more
wins.
than anything. I'd almost rather had split with them or lost both.
Yeah.
Is it because either...
That's just me.
Yeah. Is it...
So hard to beat a team 3 times.
I was say,
hard.
As a coach, are you looking at it as they're coming back with a vengeance, or are you thinking like my team may not show up as
It's
prime?
all of it. So it's like your kids, no matter what you say, just we're better than they are. We're good. We're gonna beat them. Cool to have that mentality, but you don't want to overlook, right?
Right.
Then you got preparation. Twice you've already prepared for them. The third time, like you kind of know what's going on, who's going to do what, sets being ran, whatever. So there's the prepping for it has been prepped and prepped and prepped, maybe looking past it, and then just what I call the mindfulness of beating a team 2 times. We're gonna get you this time,
Right.
And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that's going to be the one that really, really matters.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one. If they see each other in the semifinals, maybe.
I think that's probably what it's
gonna be, yeah.
Semifinals, right? Like that's the one that's going to matter.
Yeah.
It's good. It helps us on neutral floor. That's always a good thing.
Right.
Yes.
Takes that out of it, that element. But yeah, I couldn't. I hated playing a third time or
Yeah.
fourth time in a team that I've beaten 2 times or 3 times. It's never. If I go back and look, it's never worked out well.
Right.
For the most part, percentage rise.
Oh, that's interesting. That's really cool. That's like analytics wise, that's a neat concept.
But coaches know that.
Right. Yeah.
Like I'm sure Coach Kelsey at Charleston is like, okay, here we go.
Right.
And I'm sure, Coach Siddell was like, oh man, so coaches are very aware of that.
Right.
But it is what it is. You gotta go play the game, toss the ball up.
Yeah.
Whoever's playing the best is gonna win. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a reason why they play the game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So off topic of all of that. So are you a big MJ fan?
Michael Jordan, absolutely. He's the GOAT, right?
Yeah.
I would debate anybody. Bring
I
it on.
was say, yeah.
Bring it on.
He's the top of the list.
I gotta
for mine,
be.
too.
I mean, you served time at Laney.
Yeah.
Really 5 years and 9 years of my coaching career was at Laney in some form or fashion. So that was the connection there. I coached his nephew, Justin Jordan,
Okay.
which is Larry Jordan, his brother's son. Buzz Peterson's like family to me. That was his closest friend in college and roommate at North Carolina. I coached his son, Rob Peterson. So there's connections there, left and right that I'm very appreciative of. But yeah, it's Michael all day long.
Yeah. Have you heard of this one? I forget what type of coach he was, but Tim Grover. He was helping, I don't know if it was just the mental side or what was it, but look up Tim Grover. He's a very intense guy, but he made his name by working with Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think I've heard that name. I've heard
Yeah.
something about that. But his mentality.
Yeah.
Michael's wired a little different.
Right.
As we saw in the documentary,
Yeah.
it's all that is all true.
Mm-hmm.
He's competitive. Just finds something to make him, competitive and
Right.
excited to compete, which is cool.
Yeah.
Whatever it is that drives you, that you can find to motivate you is what gets you to be the GOAT.
And getting him to just kind of get the team to rally too, whether they liked it or not at the time. I'm sure they appreciate it now.
How can you not? I mean,
Exactly.
He just wanted to win, and the way he changed basketball, and all the great ones have. Obviously he changed. I mean, I remember being a kid in my backyard working on that pivot, right, turn around, fade, left, right.
Yeah.
That Michael did, and of course Kobe emulated that.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael changed the game. Steph Curry changed the game.
Yeah.
Everybody has
Right.
a player that transforms the game at that time. Everybody became a 3-point shooter when Steph got in the league.
Right.
And not just a 3-point shooter, a 35-foot from behind the arc
Yeah.
or from the rim 3-point shooter.
Right.
Whether they could shoot it well or not. So Golden State changed how teams play, for that matter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wanted to shoot threes, 6'8", 6'9", shooting threes. When Michael Jordan days, you're 6'8", 6'9", you were Patrick Ewing, you were David Robinson, you were Hakeem Olajuwon, you played in that post.
Yep.
Not anymore.
Do you see kids try to emulate it too much where it may not be
goodness.
their game? So they're trying to shoot it from the half line.
What
are you doing?
You have 6'7", 6'8" kids that just won't go in the post. And if you tell them they're going to play in the post, they look at you side-eyed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But a lot of them are getting training from their skills guy to play the perimeter, but they don't want to go inside at all. They don't want to touch the paint at all. So interesting.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play the paint anymore. That is gone. It's positionless basketball.
Yeah. Do you think it's because they're trying to emulate that, or are they trying to hit that highlight ESPN moment?
Good question. I think it's a combination of, I think today's players are way skilled. They're so skilled. They really are. People won't think they're not playing defense in the NBA, and there is some of that. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
There's some taking up, but they also crack down in the moments they have to crack down. It's just the offense is so good.
Right.
Yes.
And I hated the All-Star game a couple weeks ago. That was a joke. However,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of shots going in.
Yes.
Right.
So
Good point.
could they have guarded more and made it look? Of course. Do I feel like they need to probably do some stuff to make it a little bit more competitive, at least in moments? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, these kids are highly skilled, but I don't think nothing touches the physicality of what we saw in the All-Star games. I was pulling up clips and Kobe and Michael going at it, especially in the last 5-6 minutes of All-Star. They wanted to win.
The early 2000s,
Yeah. And
late 90s, when they were just
Right.
just didn't happen in this All-Star game. And that's just a, indication of how the league is right now. It's very good offense. These kids are very good. It trickles down, which goes back to what we're talking about. Because they say, hey, you can't play at the next level if you can't shoot the basketball, if you can't, if you can't, beat somebody off the bounce, and whether that's 6'8", 6'7", or 5'11", that's what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no more just pounding it in, and going to work.
Yeah.
I love Purdue. I
Yeah.
like Eddie because he's a back to the basket guy that seems to be getting it done.
Right.
Is there a place for him in the NBA? Yeah, I think so. But will it go back to everybody having that? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Don't think so. But everything comes in spells, so who knows? Maybe my old school wool turtleneck that I wore thinking I was a Backstreet Boys in the early 2000s will come back in style, right? I don't know.
It's crazy too.
It could.
Right. And say stuff is coming back around pretty quick. So you never know. The physicality, like just the way that they're showing up now, the kids are showing up now is really different too. Because if you take Michael Jordan in his prime and take even just the average basketball player in their prime and put them side by side, just the way they look is different. Like it seems like most basketball players are jacked now when that wasn't like a normal.
That's true too. There's definitely a difference in the appearance, and how they look, and I mean, my guys have changed. I think about teams I've had in 2003 or 4 or 5 versus teams I have now, and I would say my teams now are more physical. I'd say they look more physical.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say they're more skillful. I don't know about the physical part. The difference.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
There's a difference in that. And the way the game is refereed, the way the game is taught. I mean, just a few years ago you could armbar. You could really get fit. And there's freedom of movement. A few years ago that came into play, and it just stresses freedom of movement.
Yeah.
I don't like guys taking nights off in the NBA. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And I heard Adam Silver talk about it in the All-Star weekend with having a 65-game rule to be eligible for postseason awards. You have to at least play 65 games. They want to take nights off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant didn't take nights off.
Mm-mm.
And that's happening, and it's a thing, And, of course, they're saying legs, injuries, age, analytics, looking at that. Maybe there's facts in that. I'm sure they are, but you pay $250, $300 for a seat to go to the Hornets game to see Kevin Durant roll through there, and he don't play.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, it hurts my brain to think like players back in the day were playing 10 to 15 years, and they were, the last 3 to 5 years they were kind of like mellowed out. They weren't playing as much, and we're seeing people nowadays who are like, hey, I need to play 20 years of ball, so I'm going to take time off. I'm like, no. Can we just go back to, like, letting the next wave of people come out? Like, let's just play hard for 10 years. I mean, you can retire at 35. I would be extremely happy to retire and go coach or do something else.
Plenty for them to do, for sure, because all of them have brands now that they can go and get involved in and push and promote. Cam Newton.
Yeah.
Right.
About it, He's got his podcast. So, yeah, that's interesting, how that is transpiring. I also saw the other day where, I think it was might have been a podcast I was listening to, also talking about, fans being upset when the guys take nights off, but also sports betting.
Oh,
starting to affect that when they take nights off. You
March
put money
11th.
You put money on a player, and then he doesn't play.
Then you're out. And you're like, uh-oh.
So there's that.
Yeah.
You guys do prize picks?
I'll do like fantasy football with Dom.
Yeah.
But that's usually as much as I
takes that serious.
do. He does take it very serious.
Dom, you listening?
Yeah.
Takes it serious.
So last year fantasy football got all kind of thrown off because of the Bills game. So Dom and I were actually tandem champions for not this past year, but the year prior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
good.
yeah, random fun facts about us. So.
You're better than me.
I can't win, man. I quit playing.
This year I did horrible though.
And it's a lot. Like 17 games, 16 weeks of changing your lineup and looking like it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
Starts off all good. You jack like first 3 or 4 weeks, you're 3-1.
You're good.
Right.
You're rolling. Then you drop 2 or 3. You're like, man.
Yep.
Whatever.
Someone gets injured. You're like,
This was bad. Almost all of my players got injured at least once, and I was like, I don't. Okay, it's gone. Is that something you do too? You get, or you probably can't do much with, or I don't know. How is it with like your coaching and stuff? I'm sure you can do it with like college basketball and stuff, right? Are they cool? Yeah, because you're not actually coaching the
No, I'm not
Carolina.
anything to do.
Like,
Yeah. College coaches can't, obviously.
right? Yeah,
But-
obviously.
But yeah, I got. Yeah, unless they start doing betting and post-grad basketball or something,
Right.
they come good.
They may. You never know these days.
Trickle down.
Right.
Flight 22 and IMG. Who you got?
Yeah, there you go.
It's an interesting.
It'll bring a lot of eyes,
That's true. I might not be against that.
right?
Yeah, there you go.
Look into that.
And that's the reason why I don't really watch the NFL much, but like I'll keep an eye on it closer when I'm doing fantasy football. Like, hey, how's my guy doing today? But it also throws off when you do the fantasy side of it. It throws off like rooting for teams again, because like I don't care if that team wins. I need this guy to score as many touchdowns as possible.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting looking at it that way.
So I have a final question for you.
Shoot.
With all the stuff you got going on and everything, what would like the definition of success look like for you?
Good question. Obviously, I think that's two-sided. So obviously, we automatically go into how well we're doing financially to define success. That's human nature, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I agree.
I think that's good. That's motivation. You want to continue to make more money and grow and develop. So obviously, that's there. I'd be lying if I said it was just,
Yeah.
that's there. But truly, the other part is like getting that text, and I get them all the time. It's so cool. The text, Coach, thank you, man. I wouldn't be doing this, or I wouldn't have this, or I wouldn't be going here, or I wouldn't be, without you helping. Like that will never get old. And as long as those keep coming in, and or if I'm watching a NBA game and I'm watching, Ricky just crush it on a 2-way contract that he's gotten, and as he's climbing, like I'm excited watching that as much as anybody.
Oh, for sure.
Because you have a hand in that. You helped be part of that, and that's just special. So for me, the more of those and the continuing, I guess, to get those is a huge part of, okay, let me know that I have some self-worth, that this is worthy, as well as obviously trying to create your platform and build your platform and get more, obviously from a financial standpoint too. But so if I didn't say that, I don't think you're being truthful. You want to be good there, but the more important part, is those texts and those phone calls. We have two events every year. We have our Flight 22 Gala, which, by the way, y'all need to come. We have a Flight 22 Gala at Christmas.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's your chat. That was at the Penthouse, right?
Always at the Penthouse,
Yeah.
Jesse.
Okay. Yeah.
We have that where we raise money for the players who could not financially be able to afford to play with us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that goes. And then in June, we have our Hall of Fame. So that's when I bring in players that have played for me, that are playing overseas or have done something like this year. We're going to try to induct Ricky Council, obviously, if we get him here. And we'll add 2 or 3 others there. So we come back for the Hall of Fame. That Hall of Fame event, when they get to come back and I give them the floor to speak, that's always the best time of the year. Like the one night of the year, that's my favorite night of the year.
Okay.
Because they're just up there talking about memories and things that I don't even necessarily remember. Coach, you remember when you said? No, not really.
Yeah.
You remember when you did? No, not really. But to hear them talking about, those moments and where they would be, man, that's when I always say to myself, that's successful.
That's
success.
Nice.
So yeah, y'all should come. Make sure.
Yeah, love
Come on
to.
out. It's fun.
That'd
Fun
be
times.
awesome. So I have 2 last questions.
Shoot.
First one is we always tend to just like gloss by like the very beginning stages of stuff. So when you decided like, hey, we want to start Flight 22, how did that look? Like what kind of steps do you have to do to get that all put in place? Because I'm sure that was one hell of an undertaking.
It is. So, when you're young and you're doing things and you don't even, you're too inexperienced to even realize what's going on. That's what it was. Like, I look back now and I was, like I said, fresh out of college, 22, 23, coaching 16, 17-year-olds, so not much difference. Loading up in a van and taking kids all over the country at that point in time. Like, what were these parents thinking? Like, I was 22, 23, taking 16, 17. Now, things went great.
Yeah.
But, like, I look back, like, that was a lot, And at that time, parents didn't go to stuff.
Yeah,
They
right.
just let you do it. Now, good or bad, they're at everything.
Mm-hmm.
They got eyes. They're very involved. So, that was a lot looking back, a lot of car washes, a lot of donut sales, because we were just getting money the best way we could to support kids, because it was hard to ask for money or sponsorship, and no one really knew
What you were.
who you were,
Right.
what you were doing, or any of that stuff. Couldn't see the value of what you were doing either. So at first, very hard, and it was just one team. And then as you have success and send kids off to college, and, they're able to talk and they're able to talk about their experience and people see it, then all of a sudden it gets a little easier to get the next kid and get the next kid. And then it just kind of snowballs to where it's at now. And it's still competitive, don't get me wrong. But as far as, just being a little easier, getting sponsorship and a little easier, people understanding what we do, that's made things a little easier. But it was quite an undertaking. And it's always busy. My phone, I'm always dealing with something, and I teach, I'm a elementary PE teacher during the day.
Oh, jeez.
So I
That's a
got
lot.
two careers. You're running a business that is truly a business in every
Right.
sense of the word, and then teaching, it's a lot. It's not just one entity I have, so time is of the essence. But it's really hard, man, and it still is. But like I said, the value of it and the worthiness of it is super, super cool.
Yeah. So my actual last question then is, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
So I'm very proud of where we're at and what we've done at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably tell myself to slow down a little bit and enjoy little things, little victories, because there's always, like, the next thing. That's the thing with a coach. Like, I take Coach Siddle, like, he won last night. He's already moved on today to, like,
Yeah.
you don't embrace the small victories, I think. So I wish I could go back and probably just slow down just a little bit and value little things, maybe people, relationships. Those things are important. That's what I would tell myself. It's just, I can embrace every little victory, enjoy it, slow down a little bit. But, when you're in it, man, you're in it. So, and I also, in the other side of my ears, when I hear, like, Beyonce, when she talked about how she don't sleep, or, she works. That's in my ear too. Because I'm a little bit, at 46, I'm a little old school with my work ethic, but trying to be new school with, hey, slow down, self-health, keep yourself in check first.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is cool. I mean, I'm here with it, So I guess looking back, I'd say just try to slow down a little bit and enjoy things and value people.
Yeah. I love it.
I don't know.
So anyone that wants to follow the journey of Flight 22 or review, where can they find you?
Yeah, so our website, flight22basketball.com, and I'm on social medias, on Instagram, on Twitter, Flight22bball. We posting always, and I think you guys see it.
Yeah.
We post a lot about our guys' success, where they got offers to. We got a kid just got an offer yesterday, had one 2 days ago, got another one. Like, that's what it's about right now, is kids are getting offers. When you see that on our site or on our social media, that's a life change.
Yeah.
Because that's a kid that literally didn't. And I love when they get their first offer, because that's the validation of, boom, that's finally
Right.
free education. I'm going, it's happening, it's the first one. And then when the second, third, and fourth comes, that's great too, because now you have choices on what you want to do. But there's nothing quite like that first one. And now it's the time of the year where those offers are happening, as teams lose out of, college teams lose out of their tournaments. They're hitting a road looking for the next player, looking for the next void in their roster, offering players. So this is the time that's happening. So watch our sites, man. Watch our social media posts, and every kid that said they've got a scholarship, that's a life changed.
Yeah, that's great.
Sure.
Also,
Pretty
check out the Penthouse podcast that you were on recently, too.
Yeah. I'll market this one. I'm pretty good
Yeah.
at marketing and promoting. So I appreciate you guys having me. It was
Oh, of
fun.
course.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
so much.
So, yeah, I just want to say thank you for hopping on here. It was a
No doubt.
blast. Random shout out. I was on one of your JV basketball teams.
When? You telling me this now?
5?
At Laney?
04, 05. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Who was on? I had Avery on the team.
Avery Reed?
Yeah.
20 years ago. Jeez.
Yeah. that tells you how long ago it was.
And that tells you by memory, like, that is terrible.
Wow.
Who else
I
on that
wouldn't have
team?
remembered anything about 20 years
Avery
ago.
Reed.
We had Avery. We had Cedric
Baker?
Yeah.
Was LJ Colvin on there?
No. He came the year after.
Brian Nero?
Yes. Jonathan Moore, Nate. What is Nate's last name? Johnson? He's just a tall, skinny white kid.
And you just left all this out when I
Yeah.
was talking. Man, I'm that old.
No.
That's crazy.
No,
That's so funny.
It's always funny too because I tell people, I'm like, I grew my hair out when I was in high school and then cut it off because I hated it and didn't grow it back until like 3 years ago. It's like I will never do that again, and now I'm doing.
So then
it.
when I left Laney as a JV coach to take the job at South Columbus, did you go to varsity? Did you move up with Fred?
No, I just
Fred.
just left basketball.
Oh, good.
I wasn't good enough for that.
So and then Aaron Livengood took my place.
Yeah.
Coach Livengood.
Yes.
And Elijah Wilson came in around that time too, right? Kyle Wilson, Elijah Wilson.
Yes.
Elijah's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
Now he played. See, what happened there? He played Flight 22 with me.
Yeah.
Even though I had left Laney, he played Flight with me.
Oh, wow.
Continued to play Flight with me, and we got him to Coastal, and he's like second all-time leading
Jeez.
scorer at Coastal. Killing it still overseas right now.
Wow.
I'm just here to take you back.
Yeah, you're taking me back.
Right.
And Elijah broke Michael Jordan's single game scoring record in a 3 overtime game at White Oak, if I remember right.
Oh, wow.
Well, triple overtime will
say?
do that.
Yeah, it was triple. There was 3 overtime. Yeah, it was triple.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if it was 3 or 4, but there was 3 overtimes. I think it was 3.
Jeez.
Yeah,
See?
Sweet.
taking me back, man. Taking me
Right.
back. Crazy.
So you do remember things.
I got to dig.
Just
man.
needs a little
Little
catalyst
joke.
there.
little joke, man.
But yeah, thank you for hopping on here. It
Oh,
was
man,
a
it's
blast. You guys, as per usual, check us out on all the social medias. We got our YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.
Cheers.